Were you followed? Good. These are the Grayson files. Tell no one. So, apparently, tomorrow is, the next meeting for, the government shutdown. And, to be honest, no one really expects anything to happen. Um, but I mean, people should remain hopeful regardless, especially if you work in the government, just because, just of how, just because of how silly this whole thing is. But yeah, I mean, really, once again, we're just left in the dark by by the president and what I believe to be the entire Republican Party. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm not. It's not. That's not entirely true. Like we haven't been completely left in the dark. I mean, the Democrats, they're speaking out. Basically, all of them are. And I mean, today or yesterday or today, there was another tragedy in the news involving another little child dying uh, at the border, and you know, the main issue for Democrats and other people is that these little kids, they're not dying because um, they're dying like for one reason and one reason only. It's because they're not being treated right by border patrol agents or our border security, our present border security. I mean, the first little girl that died, the father said that when she left him, she was fine, and then like she was captured by border security, and then she died of thirst and hunger, I think. And I mean, I think that's the same thing that happened to the little boy. They basically died because of being mistreated, and how can anyone stand by that? I mean, how can anyone stand by that? It's just it's no, it's not good, because if we're already paying so much money for border security, and these people can't spare a bottle of water, they can't spare a little bag of snacks, when there's so much footage and evidence of border patrol agents dumping the water that immigrants bring with them. I mean, it's just tragic for our government to be doing that. There's no excuse. And I mean, the Republicans don't say anything. All they do is use these events as more for their argument for border security. And meanwhile, the Democrats are up in arms. So today, like I said, I mean, that thing with the little boy at the border dying, it happened either today or yesterday. I'm not even sure. Because, like I said, the government is shut down. The Republicans are keeping us uh, in, in, in the dark, and, tragedies are still occurring. And revelations keep coming out in the news, and so where we left off, because something did was published today in Time magazine. I'm not really sure how huge it was or how huge it is. Well, I mean, it turned out to be a big thing, but I'm not sure exactly how much we knew before then. That's what I'd like to find out. But I mean, this kind of supports some of what we talked last. Um, what we had left off trying to figure out who maybe is telling Trump what to do by on the part of Putin, who could be doing that. And so we had said it was either probably Kushner or Bolton. Those are the two people that are high up enough to have the influence and the protection, the power, what have you, and the history, and they both would want to do it, basically. Um, and so, I mean, today we found out that this this Russian who was known to us, I believe I had seen his photo around, and but it turns out that this man uh was pressuring Manafort to do some things. I mean, basically because of all the money Manafort owed, this guy was pressuring him, and maybe he could have been the one to pressure other people. But the thing is, we don't really know who had any debts, because I mean, right now I'm talking about specifically about senators, but there's other politicians. We don't really know of any senators that maybe led crazy lives, exuberant lives, or tried to, and needed to borrow money. Who knows? We can figure that out later. But I mean, let's take a look. Okay, so I mean, here's the search that I did earlier, and here's the article. I didn't actually read it because well, I wanted to read it. Well, to be honest, I've just spent just finished all my preparations for this show, so this is a permanent thing that I will be doing from now on, and Hope you come along for the ride. Okay, so exclusive. Russian ex-spy pressured Manafort over debts to an oligarch. When the U.S. government, you know what? I might just read most of it. Oh wow, this is kind of long. For, I mean, I'll probably read it later entirely, but maybe I should have read it just to see, just to get to the parts that we need. Okay, I'm just gonna read through most of it. When the US government put out its latest sanctions list on December 19, the man named at the top did not seem especially important. Described in the document as a former Russian intelligence officer, he was accused of handling money at negotiations on behalf of a powerful Russian oligarch. The document did not mention that the man, Viktor Bjorkin, had links to the 2016 campaign of the President Donald Trump. Okay, so he had links to the president's campaign in 2016, which means that could be referring to the connection to Manafort or otherwise. A months-long investigation by Time, however, found that Boyarkin, a former arms dealer with a high forehead and a very low profile, was a key link between a senior member of the Trump campaign and a powerful ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin. In his only interview with the media about those connections, Boyarkin told Time this fall that he was in touch with Trump's then campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, in the heat of the presidential race on behalf of the Russian oligarch. He owed us a lot of money, Boyarkin says, and he was offering ways to pay it back. The former Russian intelligence officer says he has been approached by the office of Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who is investigating possible collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign. Bjorkin's response to those investigations: I told him to dig a ditch, he says. Pete Carr, spokesman for the Special Counsel's office, declined to comment. Through his spokesman, Manafort likewise declined to comment on his alleged connections with Bjorkin. So yeah, that's how. Okay, so I mean, there we have. There's one implication and connection to Russia with Trump. Manafort, Bjorkin, Putin. And I mean, we can find the more specific connections between Paul Manafort and Trump. But the thing is, Paul Manafort seemed to have joined Trump's campaign out of necessity, in my opinion. But those connections could be potentially important to the special counsel's inquiry. They would make some of the clearest evidence of the leverage that powerful Russians had over Trump's campaign chairman, and they may shed light on why Manafort discussed going back to work for pro-Russian interests in Eastern Europe after he crashed out of the Trump campaign in August 2016. According to numerous sources in the Time investigation, and again, No, I wanna state this. From what I remember, Manafort didn't crash out of the Trump campaign because of his connections to Russia or whatever. No, no, no. We had found out about those things, and Manafort, I think, made a mistake or something like that. In I think the campaign, the entire campaign, kind of uh, I don't remember, but from what I remember, it we were like saying all these things in the news. People were saying, and like they wouldn't budge, and then something happened, and then he finally left. I even think, or maybe it was. I'm thinking of maybe Corey Lewandowski and Manafort were sort of like in a tug of war, and I think uh, Lewandowski finally won back the reins or whatever. I don't remember, but yeah, it wasn't like that. Our friend V, when he joined the campaign in the spring of 2016, Manafort was nearly broke. The veteran political consultant had racked up bills worth millions of dollars in luxury real estate, clothing, cars, and antiques. According to allegations contained in court records filed in the US and the Cayman Islands, he was also deeply in debt to Boyarkin's boss, the Russian billionaire who was demanding money from Manafort over a failed business deal in Ukraine and other ventures. Okay, there's what I wanted. Okay, just another name. Okay, so I mean, we can either move up or move down the ladder when it comes to this, but so Yorkin was being directed by this guy, Oleg Derpasky, and I'm pretty sure I've heard of him before. I'm gonna go ahead and jot his name down. And we can find out who he is later. And the important thing is we write his name down. And so here it's just talking about oh, Bjarkin says it fell to him to collect a debt from Manafort. I came down on him hard, he says, but the American proved elusive. In a petition filed in the Cayman Islands in 2014, lawyers for DePresca, a metals tycoon with close ties to the Kremlin, complained that Manafort and his then partner had simply disappeared with around 19 million of Russians' money. Okay. When he reappeared in the headlines around 2016, Manafort was serving as an unpaid advisor to the Trump campaign. He wanted his longtime patron in Moscow to know all about it. Ooh, okay. So that means that right there, Manafort is basically trying to protect himself or trying to protect someone by saying that he doesn't know anything, by pleading not guilty or whatever. In a series of emails sent that spring and summer, Manafort tried to offer private briefings about the presidential race to Deripaska, apparently, as one of the emails puts it, to get whole. That's $19 million. Reports in the Atlantic and the Washington Post revealed those emails in the fall of 2017. Among the questions that remained unanswered was the identity of Manafort's contact in Moscow, the one referred to in one of the emails as our friend V. Okay, so our friend V is this guy that we're talking about right now. So there's no reference to the other guy that we just found. There's no reference to that guy. Basically, he was going through him, and the other guy was telling probably Putin. Okay, so that's okay. And so even after Time learned his full name in April, that's when we first heard about him. His online presence amounted digital scraps, one photo of him at a conference in Moscow, a few benign quotes in the Russian media from his years selling arms for state-linked companies, and some vague references in U.S. archives to someone by that name. Commander Victor A. Bjorkin, serving in the 90s as an assistant naval attaché at the Russian embassy in Washington, D.C., a job sometimes used as cover for intelligence agents. Wow, that is kind of insane. And look, I'll be the first one to say it. I don't care. If if Victor A. Boyarkin had that job, then Putin was always planning this. Like Russia was always planning this. Maybe not planning this, but I mean, this is just like seems like something that was built up to. Okay, so this is more specific stuff. Okay, we can leave off here. But oh, okay, well, we can come back to this. Okay. Now then, I actually want to focus on right now is I want to focus okay, what I would like to know is exactly who was on the plane. Based on the fact that the ships and sailors have not been returned to Russia, I've decided it would be best for all parties concerned to cancel my previously scheduled meeting. And that sounds like someone told him to write that. That doesn't sound like Trump speak. Here we go. Okay, now we all know that okay, by now we all know that Mike Pompeo and John Kelly are two of the clean guys. They really don't they really don't have any part of this because John Kelly um is leaving and Mike Pompeo was director of CIA and then was transferred to Secretary of State, and we all know that he's been the one basically. I mean, he's the one holding the club when we're like talking to Russia and all that when they mess up. Basically, we send him to deliver a message that it's not okay. That's what we've been doing. So let's get this here. Right here is when where we learn basically everything we wanted to learn. Okay, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House press secretary, told reporters on Air Force One. So we're already on the airplane, and that's how we learned so fast. That Mr. Trump had scrubbed the meeting after reviewing the report on Russia's actions against Ukraine. Right. And we now know that that happened right away. So just keep that in mind. I mean, think about it. He got on the plane. Sarah Huckabee Sanders had the time to. I mean, she basically found out this was happening and then like told the reporters right away because she had to have told them right away. And it doesn't really take that long to do that because everyone's on the same airplane. But I mean, think about it. Um, because on the news, I mean, we were basically keeping tabs on the entire thing. They were looking at Trump or whatever, and there's the airplane. He's getting on the airplane, and then like, oh look, the meeting's canceled, and they made sure to tell us that right away. So I mean, think about it. Sarah Huckabee Sanders probably has his cell phone. Is probably the one with his cell phone, and she's writing down this tweet or whatever, and she's also like listening to everything and like rushing over to reporters to tell them that the meeting was canceled, and they had to make sure that everybody knew. And they're saying that the meeting was canceled because of the sailors, the ships and sailors that had been taken by Russia from Ukraine and were not being given back. That's his reasoning. That's probably the reasoning that Mike Pompeo gave them. And by saying Mike Pompeo, we really mean the Secretary of State, the State Department. And so, who's on the airplane? White House Chief. So on the airplane, we have Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who was the messenger. Donald Trump, who was the president. Mike Pompeo, John Kelly were on the plane. And by telephone, John R. Bolton, National Security Advisor, who was in Brazil at the time. He was in Brazil talking to another potential tyrant. I don't want to say tyrant, but another potential military state president, whatever you want to say. Um, Probably making another deal, and wow, I mean that's just that's kind of insane that this little paragraph of words could tell us so much. I mean, first of all, we needed to, we needed to know either John Bolton or Jared Kushner, who was in a better position to make this connection between Putin or whatever. But I mean, here's the thing. It turns out that we may have caught John Bolton red-handed. Because this is like this is potentially like a change in messaging or trying to hide something. And I mean, it sounds to me like Mike Pompeo is basically confronting Trump with some with some things, and basically John Kelly is trying to back him up, trying to convince him that this is like the right thing to do. This is kind of crazy. And Trump has John Bolton in his ear, probably trying to convince him otherwise. Now, keep in mind, this is all on their way to Argentina. They're on their way to Argentina, which is not a very long flight. It doesn't matter. What matters is that John Bolton isn't already in Brazil. I mean, Brazil is a very short flight to Argentina. So, I mean, these guys are all heading to Argentina basically before meeting with Putin, and all of this is going down. I mean, if they're real pros, they probably wouldn't have mentioned that John Bolton was on the phone. They probably wouldn't have let Sarah Huckabee Sanders tell reporters anything before they took off. And I mean, maybe Pompeo would have gotten off the plane. Who knows? If they were real pros. Um, and so this is also after we found out Mr. Cohen had revealed some more connections between Trump and Putin. Russia analysts noted that nothing had changed in the Russian-Ukrainian standoff in days, and that Trump had not seen it necessary to scratch the meeting before. Carpenter, senior director of... Okay, so, I mean, that little thing we had said before about maybe Trump taking direction, some kind of direction from Putin in Argentina. We never really, I don't remember any specific details about how they talked. Just that it was like a quick pass by, and I mean that fits in perfectly with this narrative if we can prove that John Bolton was in Brazil, who is clearly connected to Russia. I mean, they have clear, specific connections to Russia, Brazil does. So, I mean, if we can prove that John Bolton was in Argentina, we have ourselves a little, let's just go ahead and do that. Okay. Um, John Bolton, Argentina, 20. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at some images. Can we find a single image? Okay, there he is right there. Hold on, yeah, this I do remember G20 specifically, and let me tell you something. I already knew that John Bolton was in Argentina. I've just been kind of leading you on a little bit, um, which gives me a little bit of time to gather my thoughts. And look, there he is trying to talk to Pompeo, and look how they're seated. I mean, I actually have a better idea. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. Um, I think this was the one. No, what is it called when body language ghost? That's the one. Body language ghost. Let's see if this guy has this person could be a woman, intelligent woman. See what this person has. Go ahead and take a look. Maybe they have a video on okay, so here's the G20. Oh wow, they only have the discussion or the speech that Trump gave. We're not really interested in that, really. Let's just go ahead. Let's just try and type that up, though. Body language G20. If we find any interactions between, I mean, we can find any interactions between Pompeo and Bolton. I mean, listen, there clearly is no relationship there. It's basically all Bolton trying to get in the ear of Pompeo, who is, I mean, pretty much outranks Bolton because he's head of the state. He's Secretary of the State. Um, okay, we're not gonna find that, and you know what? I'm actually not even that interested in it. What I would like to find is G20 is China, that meeting. It's just I remember that meeting and it being so awkward. I don't even see Pompeo in there actually, now that I recall. Or is that him? I think that's Pompeo next to him. Okay, we're gonna watch this again real quick. It's a short minute video, right? No, pretty long. I just remember seeing Steve Mnuchin In my opinion, I don't know. Steve Mnuchin had no business being at the G20. He just didn't, unless the entire focus was China, which means we would have to take a look at the connections between China, Trump, and Putin. More specifically, I mean Putin. Oh man, it just keeps getting cookie is growing. We have it in our mouths and it's growing for some reason. Okay, let's take a quick look. I'm gonna mute this video. Because I don't want to. Okay, so, I mean, here we're getting a look, and there's Pompeo. Okay, there's Bolton. And I mean, they're being. And take a look at where they're seated. That's all we need to know. Okay, look. Why is Steve Mnuchin. I mean, why is Steve Mnuchin sitting next to Trump? Now, I know they're talking to China, and that Steve Mnuchin is part of the head of the treasury or whatever. But just keep in mind, keep all of this in mind. They went there. The focus was meeting with Putin, and you can't tell anyone otherwise because that was what the whole big deal was about. Whether you liked it or not, the focus was with Putin because they had to like up until that thing with the ships in Ukraine happened, basically the entire focus was around Trump and Putin, and it was controlling the messaging, making sure the optics were right, making sure the allies, our allies, weren't like freaked out. And so I mean, here we have the U.S. and China talking, and this is in front of a 90-day, or this is all in front of what had been like basically a tariff war, trade war. And I mean, we can go into the details of why that trade war happened. But yeah, I mean, there's John Kelly, there's John Bolton, there's Mike Pompeo, and I mean, these four were basically arguing on the plane. Steve Mnuchin, probably he wasn't on the plane, but I mean, we have to face the facts. Putin has a very obvious connection to terrorism. Now, maybe he's not supporting it, but he has a very clear connection to terrorism, and that's just the way things have played out. Now, we need to learn what China's connection is to Russia and terrorism, and if that connection extends into our administration.